Welcome to the Belated Tech Channel, 79th edition, and second year of the Space and Tech Rewind. We are reviewing the milestones that occurred on each day in the week of December 13th through December 19th in space exploration, science, and technology. December 13th, 1944. The X-1 rocket plane project was started by the United States on this date. A joint effort of the Army Air Force and the National Advisory Committee for Aeronautics, the predecessor to NASA, the X-1 project was intended to ascertain the viability of replacing jet engines with rocket engines in manned aircraft. Germany's Messerschmitt had developed the Me-163 rocket fighter, which had been deployed operationally 5 months earlier, so the U.S. was under pressure to find a solution. Fortunately, Germany surrendered 6 months later, alleviating the need to deploy an operational rocket combat aircraft, but the X-1 program continued. The first test flight was conducted in January of 1946, and the first supersonic flight, Mach 1.06, was performed by Chuck Yeager in October of 1947. Unlike the Me-163, all variations of the X-1 were airdropped from a bomber. Flights were continued until 1958, when the program finally ended. No other rocket aircraft were developed for almost a half a century, until Scaled Composites designed the Spaceship One. That craft first flew in May of 2003. Virgin Galactic Spaceship Two is currently the only rocket aircraft in service, being technically a suborbital spacecraft, as it, unlike the X-1 and the Me-163, can fly above the maximum altitude for which wing surfaces can provide lift. December 14th, 1962, the U.S. space probe Mariner 2 approached within about 21,600 miles of Venus, transmitting back to Earth the first locally obtained information about the planet. Launched August 27, 1962, from Cape Canaveral, Florida on an Atlas Agena rocket, the Mariner 2 was the first world-successful interplanetary spacecraft. While en route, Mariner 2 sent back new information about interplanetary space. The spacecraft's solar wind instrumentation measured the density, velocity, composition, and variation over time of the solar wind. Upon arrival, Mariner 2 verified that the atmosphere of Venus was very hot, heavy, and consisting mostly of carbon dioxide. The temperature was found to be about 900 degrees Fahrenheit. It also discovered that Venus lacks a strong magnetic field and radiation belts. Contact from the craft was lost on January 3rd of 1963. December 15th, 1903. A U.S. patent was issued for an ice cream cup mold to Italo Marchionni on this date. He had immigrated from Italy in 1895. From a pushcart on New York's Wall Street, he sold ice cream and lemon ice served in his baked waffles, which he had folded by hand into the shape of a cup while still warm. Shortly, he had a chain of 45 carts operated by men he hired. Marchionni met the need for mass production with his invention of a multiple recess mold based on a waffle iron. The bottom half of the mold was divided to make it easy to separate it from the delicate baked cups. With 2 rows of 5 in each mold, it produced 10 cups at a time. In 1904, Marchionni took his confection to the Louisiana Exposition in St. Louis, where he had the idea for the cone shape. Over 100 years later, both waffle cups and sugar cones are still sold, with ice cream in most U.S. ice cream shops. Enjoying our content? We issue new videos every week, so be sure to subscribe so you stay current. Subscribing is free, and we encourage you to browse our 350-plus video library, where you can find more milestone installments for every day of the year, as well as tech documentary segments, current events in space exploration, science, and technology, gameplay recordings, reviews of tools and equipment, and reviews of small electronics and appliances. Each video is tagged with an alphanumeric identifier in the title, so searches for particular segments are quick and easy. December 16, 1962. Explorer 16, the first satellite designed specifically for meteorite studies, was launched in a Scout X-3 rocket from the Wallops Flight Facility's Launch Complex LA-3 on this date. Explorer 16 carried stainless steel pressurized cell penetration detectors, impact detectors, capacitor detectors, and cadmium sulfide cell detectors to obtain data on the size, number, distribution, and momentum of micrometeorites in the near-Earth environment. The cylindrically shaped spacecraft, 2 feet by 6 feet, with a mass of 222 pounds, was actually mounted directly to the fourth stage of the Scout launch vehicle, which remained part of the orbiting satellite after shutting down its engine. The spacecraft operated satisfactorily during its 7.5 months of service, finally being decommissioned in July of 1963. NASA reported that all mission objectives were accomplished. December 17, 1903, Orville and Wilbur Wright made their famous first controlled and sustained flights with heavier-than-air powered aircraft on this date. Orville made the very first flight, which lasted about 12 seconds. 3 more flights were made that day by both brothers, with the most successful being the 4th and final flight, in which the older Wilbur flew for 59 seconds. The moment was the beginning of a 12-year run where the Wright brothers dominated the U.S. airplane industry, and along with Robert Goddard, triggered what is now thought of as the dawn of the space age. Wilbur died in 1912 at age 45 from typhoid fever, and Orville sold his interest in the Wright Company and last piloted an aircraft in 1918. Orville went on to serve on the National Advisory Committee for Aeronautics, again the predecessor to NASA, for 28 years. He lived long enough to observe operational jet aircraft starting in 1943 and fly in a Lockheed Constellation airliner piloted by Howard Hughes in 1944. He died 3 years after the end of World War II. Orville was 77. Have you agreed with our choices, or do you think there are other events in space and tech history that were better? Go ahead and share with us by dropping a comment below. If you have suggestions for other space and tech milestones, let us know. We'll credit milestones we pick for future videos to those viewers that post them. And don't forget to click the bell notification icon so you don't miss upcoming videos. December 18, 1958, the first American communications satellite was launched by the U.S. Army on this date. Project SCORE, an acronym for Signal Communication by Orbiting Relay Equipment, was put into orbit from Cape Canaveral using an Atlas B rocket from the Cape Canaveral Air Force Station's Launch Complex 11. It was the first successful trial of the Atlas space launch vehicle. The satellite was the first project of the Advanced Research Projects Agency. The entire rocket was placed into low Earth orbit, with communications equipment integrated into the fairing pods of the missile. The low orbit limited life expectancy of the satellite to only 2 to 3 weeks, thus limiting opportunities for real-time relay between 2 ground stations. Therefore, a store and forward mode was added by including a tape recorder, which also gave the satellite a worldwide broadcast capability, the world's first satellite to broadcast voice. The broadcast was a missive from U.S. President Dwight Eisenhower. It said, quote,
"This is the President of the United States speaking. Through the marvels of scientific advance, my voice is coming to you from a satellite circling in outer space. My message is a simple one. Through this unique means, I convey to you and to all mankind America's wish for peace on earth and goodwill toward men everywhere."
December 19, 1944, the first patent for an atomic pile, titled Neutronic Reactor, was filed by Enrico Fermi and Leo Szilard on this date. As this occurred during a period that the United States was engaged in total war against the German Reich and the Japanese Empire, the patent remained highly classified. It was not issued for another 11 years, 10 years following the end of World War II. finally receiving an official patent number on May 17, 1955 by the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office. Work on the initial patent application had begun 6 months before the reactor was completed at the University of Chicago's Metallurgical Laboratory, a predecessor to the Argonne National Laboratory. The patent had 42 diagrams and described the method by which a self-sustaining nuclear chain reaction had been accomplished. Fermi, Szilard, and their team of scientists ushered in the nuclear age when they achieved the world's first controlled, self-sustaining nuclear chain reaction on December 2nd of 1942. Unfortunately, Fermi died on November 28th of 1954, 6 months before the patent was issued. He was 53. Szilard, horrified by the use of atomic weapons in 1945, abandoned nuclear physics and became a biologist for the remainder of his career. The scientist made a number of important advances in microbiology before succumbing to a heart attack in 1964, outliving Fermi by only 9 years. He was 66. On October 31, 2021, Israeli defense contractor Israeli Aerospace Industries revealed it had begun designing a successor to the Beresheet lunar lander that had crashed on the surface of the moon on April of 2019. The new craft will be called the Beresheet 2. During the original Beresheet mission, a gyroscope failed during the braking procedure on approach to the landing site, and the ground control crew was unable to reset the gyroscope due to a sudden loss of communications with the control network. By the time the communications were restored, the craft had already lost too much altitude to slow its descent. Beresheet was traveling 310 miles per hour at just 490 feet in altitude. The lander was a total loss on impact with the lunar surface. IAI is developing a lunar orbiter that will carry 2 small landers. The orbiter will deploy 2 landers to attempt to land in different parts of the moon, and then performing an imaging mission that could last for several years. Work on the mission design started in the first half of 2021, with the orbiter recently passing its preliminary design review. The orbiter and landers will take about 3 years to develop. There was no word on when IAI is expected to launch the Beresheet 2. We hope you enjoyed the 79th episode of Belated Tech Space and Tech Rewind. If so, click that like button. Once again, don't forget to subscribe, or just stay in touch by following us on our microblogging accounts, which are listed below, the community feed for this channel, our Instagram feed, and our Minds page. We announce all new videos and post some unique content on those outlets. And if you prefer an alternative video distribution source, consider visiting our channel on Rumble. Thanks for watching.